Hi, I'm Frankie, and in this video, I want to talk to you about how you can use structured data with your Azure AI agents. When it comes to using Azure AI agents, you often want to use your own data that's personalized to you for your situation. Sometimes it's unstructured data, sometimes it's structured. When it's unstructured, it's JSON files, media, video, PDFs, text files, and those are easy to vectorize, put them in a resource like Azure AI Search, and call them with some sort of RAG methodology that's easy to access for your Azure AI agent. It's a little more complicated when we talk about structured data that's in spreadsheets, Excel files, or databases. And a big reason why the structured data is more challenging to access for your Azure AI agents is the tables and rows. There's this structure that's in place for this data. And is your agent going to be able to understand how those tables and how those columns and rows, how do they relate to one another? How do you keep that structure and the value of all of those meanings, definitions, relationships all together so that your agent that understands natural language can interact with it? So the main way we do this right now is usually you have some sort of API that you're going to give access to your agent from, whether it's a custom API or an MCP server, or you have a Fabric data agent that can access it, or maybe there's a code interpreter that can interact with some structured data that you're going to upload, and the code interpreter is going to break it down and give it to your agent. So those are the 4 ways, and we're going to go over those 4 ways. How do you make decisions on how to use them? Now, when it comes to the API, just to clarify, when you do give access to your agent, some sort of API that's going to access your structured data, you do usually need some sort of logic in between that is going to translate your information from your structured database or spreadsheet into something that is, an easy response to your API. So your API is going to usually have some sort of function with an SDK that's going to call some sort of a table or spreadsheet, and then it's going to format it in some way that it'll send back as a response to that API. So you are going to determine with some sort of logic or some sort of function exactly the type of information that can come back from any particular API call. And you might have many APIs in an MCP server or a custom API tool where each of those APIs can get some set of structured data retrieval output that you want from your database or spreadsheet or wherever your structured data is that you're going to give to your agent. So that's usually how that works. Now let's get into the decision-making diagram. It starts at the top when we consider, you have structured data and you need to access your Microsoft Foundry agent, your Azure AI agent that's used in Microsoft Foundry, and you ask, what is the shape of the questions that you're going to be asking when you interact with your Azure AI agent? Are you going to be asking analytical questions that are more about, what's going on, I'm trying to explore, I'm trying to understand, analyze the data? Or are you asking for just specific information, deterministic information, of you just need a specific number or a set of numbers that you're just querying for quickly? Well, if you just need a deterministic answer, then you're going to ask yourself, does an open API spec doc exist for this, or can I easily generate one? And the reason is because open API spec docs are what's used for the custom API tool in Microsoft Foundry, which means you could have a database or some sort of structured data that's stored in some location that can be accessed with an API. And if that API can then just be set up as a open API spec, you can access that structured data via a custom API tool that you set up in Microsoft Foundry via an open API spec doc. If there's not an open API spec doc that exists for the API that accesses that structured data, then you might be setting up something yourself. And these days, the easiest way to give your agent access to a set of APIs is with a MCP server. Model Context Protocol is a protocol that allows you to translate APIs to your agent by giving it just a set name and description of tools that it can access to get access to those APIs. Thus, that might have that structured data on the other side of those APIs. So that's what you should do if you have deterministic needs for your structured data Examples might be you are calling certain information like revenue figures that you just need your agent to go and fetch and then use as part of a conversation or a context, something that is very specific every time, one way. So that's deterministic. Now, there's going to be times when you want to ask analytical questions. You want to analyze the data. You want to look at what's going on. How does this work? And so you're going to first ask yourself is this something that's really quick? Are we working with static files that are not going to change very often? Or are you just analyzing something real quick one time on the spot, maybe in the Foundry portal, or you're creating an agent that allows you to analyze a set of documents very quickly that doesn't need to be stored for a long time or even stored anywhere. If there's only a few files and the answer is yes to some of those questions, it's a quick thing you're doing. If it's static files, they're not changing much. If you are only working with a few files, and the answer is yes, then you want to use Code Interpreter. Code Interpreter allows you to analyze code, analyze math, analyze graphs and charts, but really when you analyze a spreadsheet or an Excel document or data that you're going to upload, there's not that many files. There's a limit of about 20 files I think you can upload for Code Interpreter, and there's a limit of around 500 megabytes per file, that the size of each of those files. You can just interact with Code Interpreter with that structured data, and that's just a quick and easy way. If that is you just have those quick static files and they're not going to change much. It's not great if you have dynamic files that are changing a lot, or if you have a lot of structured data, or if you're doing something a lot often. This is only if you have just a few files, or there's just they're not changing much. It's just a couple spreadsheets or something that you want to analyze real quick. Code Interpreter is the move. But if the answer is no to that, then you're looking at, is the data in Fabric, which is Microsoft Fabric. Microsoft Fabric is a place to manage a lot of your data portfolio for your organization, and it allows you to easily interact with your data, especially when it comes to if you're going to build a Fabric data agent, which is where we're getting to with this. So is your data already in Fabric? Is it already pointed to Fabric to access it, do enterprise analytics on it, or is it one shortcut away? I define one shortcut away as data that lives in a storage layer that Fabric can easily read via the OneLake shortcut without moving the data. So without migrating the data, can we just point Fabric to it and get access and use the data? So it could be Azure Data Lake storage, could be somewhere even outside of the Azure platform, Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, Azure Synapse Serverless, is the Dataverse from the Power Platform. These are all different examples that would be quick, easy shortcuts that if the data lives in any of these locations, you can easily just point Fabric to it, and the answer to this question would be yes. If the answer is no, your data is somewhere else, a little more confusing, harder to access, not connected to Fabric, then the answer would be no. And you'd be asking, is that data easily accessible with an API, open API spec? If so, you're looking at a custom API. If not, you're looking at an MCP server. But if the data is in one of those locations for the shortcut, or if it's already in Fabric, then you ask yourself, does your team already have a Power BI investment or have a Fabric environment already? Are you already leveraging a Fabric environment? Are you willing to learn Fabric and take advantage of this platform that allows you to do enterprise analytics on all types of data, transform it, analyze it, see all the different ways that you can take advantage of your data for your organization to improve your business, your products, help make things better for your customers? If the answer is yes to that, then you're looking at a Fabric data agent. If the answer is no, you're back to OpenAPI or an MCP server. A Fabric data agent is going to allow you to interact with your data. A Fabric data agent has this thing called a semantic model behind it, which is a deterministic way to map relationships and the types of calculations that are going to be frequently asked so that you can interact with your data in a way that is reliable and can scale. And a Fabric data agent can be an agent even on its own that doesn't have to be connected to Microsoft Foundry, but if you want, can with a Fabric Data Agent tool. So those are the 4 ways that you can use connect your structured data to Microsoft Foundry for a Microsoft Foundry agent. It's Code Interpreter if you don't have that many files, Fabric Data Agent if you are already in Fabric, you have an investment, you already have the data and it's a lot and you want to access it for analytics. This is the move for you. In a lot of other circumstances, you're looking at a custom API or an MCP server to access that structured data. Probably with some sort of SDK that exists in between in some sort of function layer or logic that can pull from that structured data to then give it back to your agent so your agent can use it. So these are the things to consider when you're thinking about structured data. People are asking, how do I get access to my structured data? I've got this database. Well, these are your options: Code Interpreter, Fabric Data Agent, Custom API, or MCP server. Let me know what questions you have. You can always put questions in the comments. I answer every question to help as many people as I can. If you felt this video was helpful, I'd appreciate if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. As always, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.